course, we recognize that one of the big issues and the big challenges that we have is that we're talking about a workforce trying to future-proof a workforce for a future that we're not sure what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
How do we begin thinking about that? What is it that we need to do to make sure that we're kind of doing the right things, or as much as we can, even though we don't know what it's going to be like in a decade's time?
I think it's the million-dollar question, but we'll try and we'll find a way to get to the answer. But before that, if you allow me, I just want to say that it's a pleasure to be here. I wanted to welcome you all on behalf of not just myself, the leadership and the government, but also the team at the Economic Development Board, which has been working really hard to put this together. It is absolutely an honor to be able to host you here over the next couple of days. And if there is anything that we can do for you, please consider us friends and family and partners. The team are dotted around, so please do find them if you need any support. And a pleasure to be on stage with you.
It's a pleasure to be here with you. I've been very excited.
Thank you so much, and what a fun morning it has been. I mean, we're even talking about Christmas presents, and there was a magic wand at some point, so maybe we'll find the magic wand for the answer. But for that, I think we have to realize that we've always had to really adapt for unknowns. Maybe in our generation, this unknown might seem bigger. But for me, it's exactly that. It's the adaptability. What we're trying to do, what we need to think about, is given how much unknowns that there are, what I need is to instill a behavior or skills in the people that will enable them to adapt to whatever reality becomes. And that's exactly what we're trying to do. And we like using the word future-proofing without deciding what that future would look like. But I'm future-proofing my people. And as was discussed earlier, so as we're gearing up or preparing for our Vision 2050, future-proofing our economy, future-proofing our people is something that we're really interested in doing. And to do that, you have to realize that we're not planning for 2, 3, 5 years even. We're talking Vision 2050. That's in the 25 years' time. No one here can answer that question of what the next 5 years even would look like, let alone 25 years. But what we learned over the last even decade of really investing in education, investing in our people, it's making sure that we're continuing to adapt. As Sheikh Salman mentioned, His Excellency Minister of Finance mentioned earlier, we never stop reviewing what we're doing, and we never stop looking forward. We never stop thinking, how do I reinvent myself? How do I rethink or re-strategize what I'm doing? And just like when you're thinking about how do I re-strategize my economy, if you want to protect your economy, if you want to ensure your economy prospers, it is about investing in your people. Investing in your people is about the security of your country, is about the prosperity of your economy. And so that discussion about the human capital is very, very important.
When we are looking at that human capital, one of the points that came up in the previous discussion was this notion or acceptance of a need for collaboration, right? Better collaboration. So you have to have a look at what your domestic space and market looks like, but understanding that you operate in a global economy that can be impacted at any minute of the day by geopolitical uncertainty and all sorts of shifting winds. The reality is that the people who work in organizations are caught in that space, right? So whatever energy and whatever experience is happening externally is happening to them as well. How do we need to think differently, if at all, about how we maintain a high level of motivation and engagement when for so many right now, they're feeling a lot of pressure because of economic softness and instability?
Yeah. Let me just pick on that word, I think, collaboration first. And I'm very happy to hear all about partnerships and collaborations, which really reflect how we feel as a GCC region, as one unit. And for the longest time, I think people wanted it to be this hardcore competition, but it's a complementarity in there in the way we operate in the GCC. And that's exactly what we're seeing. And we see it on the way that we design our strategies. We all complement each other, and there is a lot of similarities between the strategies across the countries. We're all trying to invest in our infrastructure, we're all investing in our people, we're all trying to find the best opportunities for investment, we're all looking into digitization. And all of that really is being translated also in the way we look into our human capital. So if we look at Bahrain and the way we wanted to position ourselves in order to fit into that jigsaw puzzle or complementarity of the region, and as the word suggests, if we wanted to be the gateway, And if we wanted to be the service center to the GCC, if we wanted to be the center of excellence, I have to make sure that I have the right people to be able to service the region. I have to have the right people to be able to really translate those visions. And that's exactly what we're doing here in Bahrain. A lot of the focus has been on making sure that I have the right people in order to serve. And we have a lot of examples, and we can go into that. But also you mentioned maybe the uncertainty that the private sector feels. As a small economy, and actually relatively even as a smallish region, part of the intrinsic reality of the region is that we're always having conversations with the private sector as government. So that relationship between the private sector, the public sector, but also bringing in academia is something that is ongoing. It does not stop, it does not get initiated, it's just ongoing all the time. And with that, we're able to understand what is worrying the private sector at the moment. Well, the digitization, I think, is one of the biggest ones that people are looking at. And so our role is to ensure that we have the right policies in place for them to be able to find the right people in order to go into that journey of digitization. And then we have to collaborate with the academia to ensure that our people are skilled and have the right skills when they graduate in order to fill in those jobs. And that circle that we're seeing has been actually, for me, even at the ADB, has been fascinating to see. Because whenever we have a potential investor coming in, there's always a three-way conversation. Because we're having a conversation with the government to say, there is that potential investment, what policies do we have that cater for that? You have a discussion with the private sector itself and asking them, what is it that you're looking at? What sort of jobs do you need? But we also look at not just the universities, but at the training centers as well, and saying, well, we're seeing a lot of demand on, for example, at the moment, there's a lot of push on tech hubs. So Citibank, when it set up a few years back in Bahrain, and committed to hiring 1,000 coders over 10 years, and they're on track at the moment to do that. That brought in a lot of other interest because they know once you have one big player here training people, then you're going to have the right skills. And so we are seeing a lot of companies, and hopefully we'll hear some of those announcements coming up in the next couple of days. But with that, it meant we had to work really closely with the universities in order to ensure that the output of the universities can cater for those jobs.
So clearly, what has to also change is recruitment strategies and how organizations are thinking about recruitment, because it's no longer just about getting the people in. You got to get them in, you got to have the appropriate skills, and you got to look at the long-term sustainability of that space.
Yeah.
How then are you thinking around tracking readiness for the future?
Yeah.
As you indicated earlier, we don't know what that's going to look like in 5 years, let alone 10 years.
Yeah.
How are you then tracking, or how would you think differently about tracking that readiness so that you have some level of comfort that you're heading in the right direction?
Yeah. I think one key thing for us has been looking at what the data is telling us. Data for us is really important. And with the support of few organizations, one of which is Temkeen, and I'd like to go a bit more into Temkeen because it's been the enabler of the development of a human capital in Bahrain. But having a setup or a platform that's been tracking the progress of human capital, where are the jobs? How many graduates do I have in those degrees? Where are the current, the unemployment, where is that? In what degrees and in what jobs? That helps not just us as government. That platform is open for the public to see. And it allows even companies to look at that. It allows the university students, it allows school students, it allows parents to look into that and be able to support and really divert to people to where the job opportunities are. But if I could stop at Temkeen. So Temkeen, for those who don't speak Arabic, means enable. And it's been this great institution. It's been a partner of us. It's a great contributor to the Team Bahrain. And their mandate is to make sure, on the one hand, that the private sector is enabled to push and to become the main driver of economic development. But also their other mandate is to make sure that the Bahrainis are the preferred choice when it comes to employment. And they do that through lots of initiatives, partnerships, programs that you can go and choose from and speak to them and then benefit from those programs. And a lot of those programs are to do with training people. So they provide you with 100% grant to train people. They will provide you also, there's a global talent program which allows you to send people to the HQ of that company in order to get the training that you need. as well as subsidizing the salaries of entry level and mid level as well. And the presence of Tamkeen has been, for us, a game changer in terms of the conversations that we're having with investors. Because with that, we're able to bet on our people. For us in Bahrain, we say, we're an open economy, we're an open country, we welcome people to come, and we want to make sure that when companies come to set up in Bahrain, we want to ensure their success as well. And if their success is dependent on them getting the right talent that you need, regardless of where that talent comes from, whether it's from Bahrain or from outside, well, we say, feel free to bring in your talent, but we're going to bet on our people in Bahrain, and we're going to ensure that we bring in all of those key players to ensure that we have the right outcome for you to benefit from.
Okay, we're going to have to start wrapping up our conversation already, believe it or not. I know the time has flown by. But let's then look a little bit around how we go from here.
Yeah.
It's clear that there is a specific drive by yourselves here in Bahrain, not just to attract the talent, not just to upskill the talent, but to have companies come and locate themselves here. That's crucial for your economy. What are the things, if you had to say two things around a workforce that is more future ready, what are the things that you think you need to do, over and above what you are doing, that can change the game and get you to where you want to go faster and better?
One key word was mentioned earlier, which is being more productive. This is going to be the way we go forward. For the past few years, it's been a lot of investment on the training, on enabling and bringing in as many people into the workforce as well. But now with the presence of digitization, we're going to have to do that shift where we bring in all of those people, but make them part of that push for digitization and innovation, making sure that there is access for as many people as possible and using that to drive that productivity, because that's really going to be the key for driving economic development. And for us, it's also collaborating with the rest of the GCC. It's great to see what's happening across. I mean, when we look across the causeway and we see what's happening in Saudi and their drive for even training coders, when we look at the UAE and we see the drive of what's happening in the training, the workforce, and all across the GCC as well, of course, what's happening in Bahrain. I think that ability to move the talent around, because what's happening is that you have companies and investors coming into the region and having different functions set up in different countries to benefit from the different characteristics of each country. So they might have their HQ in one country, their back office or middle office in another country, they have their service center in another country. And to be able to have that talent also rotate across the GCC, I think it's already a game changer for us.
One last thing before you go. Diversity, obviously when people often nowadays talking about diversity, they think about race or they think about gender, etc. But I think what's interesting that's happening in this region is that there's a tremendous cultural diversity happening purely because the workforce isn't always present in the country, so a lot of talent and skill has to be imported, which creates a certain different kind of diversity. Can you share with us a little bit about how you can better tap into that as a tool for changing, one, the experience in the workforce environment, but secondly, as a beneficial element for companies who want to come and be located here?
Absolutely. I think being an island nation on the trading routes, we're talking about thousands of years when Bahrain had people around, and you see it actually if you go around Bahrain, you see it in the culture, you see it in the establishments that you see in Bahrain. So that's been definitely one thing that's contributed to the openness of the country, to the willingness to welcome people from across the world really to come and set up. And for us, this is important. The quality of life here is important not for employers at the moment. So when they come actually to decide where am I going to locate or put my next office, and we see it. I mean, we were having conversations yesterday with one of the investors, and they say one of the key considerations now is where am I going to put my people to live? And for us, that openness is very, very important, and one that we definitely continue to maintain.
Well, I'm certainly looking forward to more conversations today and tomorrow around how Bahrain is going to navigate this. I think the job has been tremendous, how you continue to punch above your weight. So congratulations on that, and please a round of applause to thank Her Excellency for her contribution.
Thank you so much.